Russia captured Iran's nuclear deal from America. Not with missiles, not with warships, not with a single soldier deployed anywhere near the Persian Gulf. Russia captured the most important element of any settlement to this conflict, the uranium disposal mechanism, by doing something America refused to do. Russia offered to take it. America said no. And now Arachi is in Moscow, and the offer is being locked in as the indispensable framework for whatever comes next. America has no blockade option that changes this. Let me explain exactly why. The blockade of Iranian ports has been the central instrument of American pressure in this 62-day conflict. 37 ships turned back, 2 carrier groups, 19 warships, the most intensive naval blockade attempted in the modern era. The theory was straightforward. Cut Iran's oil revenue, increase economic pain, force Tehran to the table on American terms. The theory failed. Iran's oil exports in March 2026 were higher than before the war began. China's shadow fleet, CIPS payment system, and strategic reserves kept Iran's economy functioning throughout the entire blockade. The blockade's ceiling, the point beyond which it cannot increase pressure on Iran, has been reached. And above that ceiling sits everything China built over the preceding decade. But the blockade's failure is not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the specific thing that happened in the last 72 hours that makes the title of this video accurate. Russia captured Iran's nuclear deal from America. Here is exactly how. To understand what Russia captured, you need to understand what the central technical problem of any Iran nuclear deal actually is. America has demanded that Iran's enriched uranium leave Iranian soil as a condition of any agreement. Iran has enriched uranium to 60% purity. American intelligence estimates it could be further enriched to weapons grade, 90%, within weeks if Iran chose to do so. The uranium exists. It is underground. It is the specific material that the entire conflict's stated nuclear justification is organized around. Any deal that calls itself a nuclear deal requires this material to go somewhere that America considers safe and that Iran considers not capitulation. Here is the problem. America wants the uranium destroyed or transferred to American custody or control. Iran will not accept American custody under any circumstances. For Iran's domestic political audience, including the IRGC, including the hardline parliamentary bloc, including the revolutionary constituency that the regime's legitimacy depends on, handing Iran's enriched uranium to America is the equivalent of surrendering the country's sovereign deterrent to the same country that bombed it for 62 days. It is not politically survivable. No Iranian government that accepted American custody of its uranium stockpile would survive the domestic political consequences. This is not a negotiating position. It is a structural constraint. So you have a technical problem with no obvious solution. The uranium must go somewhere. It cannot stay in Iran under any deal America will accept. It cannot go to America under any deal Iran will accept. What is the third option? Russia is the third option. Russia offered to store Iran's enriched uranium at existing Russian nuclear facilities as a custodianship arrangement. The IAEA has standard verification protocols for exactly this kind of custodianship. Russia has nuclear infrastructure that can handle enriched uranium safely. From Iran's perspective, the material leaves Iranian soil, but it goes to an allied country outside American jurisdiction. From America's perspective, the material leaves Iranian territory and is out of direct Iranian operational control. From Russia's perspective, it becomes the permanent custodian of the most sensitive element of the Iran conflict's resolution, a position of leverage that exists for as long as the custodianship arrangement continues. This offer was made publicly. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed it. It was the solution to the deal's hardest technical problem. It was available. It was workable. And Russia also announced it would fund construction of a nuclear reactor inside Iran, deepening the energy partnership that makes Russia's custodianship offer strategically coherent rather than purely transactional. Trump rejected the uranium offer, not because it was technically unworkable, not because the IAEA said the verification protocols were insufficient. Trump rejected it, according to CNN's reporting, because he did not want Russia to gain the leverage in the global nuclear energy sector that being the custodian of Iranian enriched uranium would provide. Read that again. America rejected the solution to the deal's most technically difficult problem because of what it would give Russia, not because the solution was bad, because of what Russia would gain from providing the solution. And then Arakci flew to Moscow. Let me explain precisely what Arakci's Moscow visit means in this context, because I think it is the most important diplomatic event of the last week, and it is being buried under the noise of the Pakistan talks collapse. When Arakci flies to Moscow after Trump rejected Russia's uranium offer, he is doing one specific thing. He is ensuring that Russia's offer does not expire. He is confirming that Iran still considers the Russian custodianship mechanism a live option. He is telling Russia, we know America rejected you, but we have not rejected you. And when America eventually realizes it needs your solution, we need your solution to still be there. This is not desperation. This is the preservation of the most valuable diplomatic asset in this entire conflict. Because here is the geometry of what Trump's rejection created. America needs a uranium disposal mechanism for any deal to work. There is one uranium disposal mechanism currently available. Russia has it. America rejected it. Russia's offer is still on the table. Iran is in Moscow to keep it there. The party that holds the solution to the deal's most technically necessary problem, when the primary party has rejected that solution, holds leverage over the primary party's options. America needs something only Russia has. America has told Russia it does not want what Russia has. Russia has kept the offer available anyway. And now Iran is in Moscow confirming that the offer matters and must remain intact. This is what I mean when I say Russia captured Iran's nuclear deal from America, not by force, by being the only party willing to provide the solution America needs but refuses to accept. When America eventually accepts Russia's uranium custodianship, and it will because there is no alternative, it will do so from a position where Russia has been waiting patiently with the solution America rejected. That waiting is power. That patience is leverage. And Arakci is in Moscow today to ensure the wait continues on favorable terms for both countries. There is a second dimension to the Moscow visit that the coverage is missing entirely. China and Russia held a joint meeting with Iran and the IAEA on April 24th, confirmed by CNN, specifically to discuss Iran's nuclear program. This was not a bilateral Russia-Iran meeting. This was a trilateral China-Russia-Iran meeting with IAEA participation. It happened 2 days ago, 3 days before Arakci's bilateral Moscow visit, which means when Arakci sits with Russian officials today, he is building on a framework that China has already been part of constructing. The uranium custodianship offer is not a bilateral Russia-Iran arrangement. It is part of a China-Russia-Iran nuclear framework that has been under construction at the IAEA level for at least the last week. America is not part of that framework. America rejected the primary component of it. America is being asked to accept a framework it was not involved in designing from a position of having rejected the solution its adversaries designed to replace American involvement. That is what Russia capturing Iran's nuclear deal actually means. Now let me explain what the blockade cannot do, because the title says no more blockade options, and I want to be precise. The blockade of Iranian ports was designed to create economic pressure that would force Iran to negotiate on American terms, specifically to cut Iran's oil revenue, reduce resources available to the IRGC, and produce domestic political pressure, pushing the Iranian government toward concession. The blockade failed at each objective. Iran's oil exports in March 2026 exceeded pre-war levels because China's shadow fleet infrastructure, built over the preceding decade specifically to move Iranian oil outside the Western maritime system, absorbed the additional logistical challenge without significant disruption. Iran's revenues continued flowing through CIPS rather than SWIFT. China's 1.2 billion barrel strategic reserve insulated Chinese markets from the energy shock. The blockade's maximum economic pressure ceiling was lower than the China-Iran economic architecture's floor. But here is the specific point about blockade options. The blockade is a maritime instrument. The uranium is not at sea. The uranium is underground, in mountain-embedded facilities. distributed across dispersed enrichment sites. The blockade of Iranian ports does not prevent Iranian centrifuges from spinning. It does not reduce Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. It does not make the disposal problem easier to solve. Maintaining the blockade indefinitely leaves the uranium problem exactly where it is, requiring a diplomatic resolution that America has made structurally harder to achieve by rejecting the only available diplomatic solution. There is no version of increased blockade pressure that produces a uranium disposal mechanism. The blockade's maximum achievable outcome produces economic pain without a nuclear settlement. And economic pain without a nuclear settlement is the conflict continuing indefinitely while Russia collects $700 million per day in additional oil revenue from elevated Brent crude, China processes record CIPS volumes, and Iran's diplomats fly between Islamabad, Muscat, and Moscow, building the framework America is not part of. The blockade is running. It has no option that changes what Russia captured. Let me close with what happens at the Beijing summit. Trump flies to Beijing in 3 weeks. He will arrive having rejected Russia's uranium offer, having maintained a blockade that Chinese tankers cross, having had his Pakistan delegation canceled, having said publicly he has all the cards, and having no uranium disposal solution for the deal he says he wants. Xi will receive him knowing what Arakchi said in Moscow, knowing what the trilateral China-Russia-Iran-IAEA framework contains, knowing that Russia's offer is still live, that Iran's improved proposal is in the Oman Channel awaiting American response, and that the deal's technical architecture has been constructed between Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, and Muscat, with Washington absent from every room. If Trump arrives in Beijing, willing to acknowledge that Russia's uranium custodianship can be part of a framework, even indirectly, even through the Oman back channel rather than public statement, a deal becomes possible within weeks. The framework is ready, the terms are in the channel, the technical bridge is in Moscow. If Trump arrives in Beijing having rejected Russia's offer in public and having no alternative, Xi will tell him, because Russia will have briefed Beijing on exactly this point,